Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving into something that, on the surface, looks like your standard run-of-the-mill enterprise product update. But honestly, it is actually a high-stakes geopolitical thriller. Today, we're unpacking the launch of ZCode. This is a brand new development environment from Beijing-based Z.AI, and we're going to examine how it's fundamentally transforming the entire global AI landscape. So, if you're an enterprise leader, a developer, or just someone fascinated by this crazy intersection of technology and global power, this is a strategic briefing you absolutely need to hear.
Here's a quick look at our roadmap for today. We'll kick things off with the AI export ban crisis. Then meet ZCode and GLM. After that, we'll explore the reality of zero American chips, break down the $10 billion market, and finally, look at how to actually survive the multi-model era. But before we even start talking about code or chips, we have to talk about a terrifying new reality: sovereign access risk. This right here is a totally new risk category for enterprise AI procurement. I mean, just imagine realizing that the AI model powering your absolute most critical workflows, whether that's in finance, healthcare, or SaaS, could literally just vanish overnight, and not because of a server outage, but by a sudden government decree. That is the intellectual hook for everything we're getting into today. Okay, let's dive into Section 1, the AI export ban crisis and the Fable 5 shockwave.
To really understand where we are right now, we have to look back at the inciting incident that shook the global AI world to its core. Think about this chaotic 3-week timeline from June 2026. On June 9th, Anthropic launches their highly anticipated Fable 5 model, right? Huge news. But literally 3 days later, on June 12th, the US government issues an emergency export control directive, completely suspending foreign national access to Fable 5 globally. And what happens next is wild. It highlights an incredibly coordinated response. The very next day, and rolling out over that weekend, Chinese firm Z.AI counters by releasing their powerful GLM-5.2 model, completely open source. Now, even though the Fable 5 restrictions were eventually lifted on June 30th, it didn't matter. The shockwaves had already permanently altered the landscape.
So during that suspension, enterprise clients woke up to find their core intelligence services abruptly disabled. Zero prior warning, absolutely no effective recourse. As an investigation by Fifth Row highlighted perfectly, standard enterprise procurement contracts and service-level agreements proved totally useless in protecting against this new geopolitical reality. The standard legal jargon you usually rely on simply wasn't built for a regulatory kill switch.
Because of all this, the fundamental way we evaluate AI shifted practically overnight. It's no longer just about a sleek developer experience or chasing the absolute highest benchmark scores. It all boils down to this single, incredibly urgent question for enterprise CTOs: will this tool still work tomorrow?
Which brings us to Section 2, meet ZCode and GLM and the agent-first approach.
This uncertainty perfectly set the stage for a counterstrike from Beijing-based Z.AI, and they made an incredibly aggressive push into the AI coding tool market. We're talking about an entirely different way of working. Traditional integrated development environments, your standard IDEs, usually treat AI as an afterthought, right? They just bolt on a little AI chat sidebar or an autocomplete extension and call it a day. ZCode represents a massive architectural shift. It is an agent-first environment. So picture an autonomous agent actively planning work, editing files, running checks, and iterating on long-horizon tasks, all while you sit back and simply manage its overall direction. Now, what's really fascinating here is the remote control feature. ZCode is built to run multi-hour coding tasks. But let's be real, you don't want to sit staring at a progress bar on your screen all day. So you can actually steer these long-running tasks directly from messaging apps like WeChat, Facetune, or Telegram right on your phone. It speaks directly to how developers actually communicate today. Plus, the whole thing is free to download, it's cross-platform, and it supports multiple models. That means you aren't permanently locked into just one ecosystem.
But here is the absolute genius of ZCode's architecture given our current climate. Bring your own key, or BYOK. Because Z.AI released the underlying GLM-5.2 model with an open-source MIT license, your development team can just download the model, host it entirely on your own private infrastructure, and run ZCode against it. This is a brilliant technical workaround because it completely neutralizes sovereign access risk. It eliminates the fear of an American export control kill switch, and, at the exact same time, it wipes out the Chinese data sovereignty concerns that normally come with using Z.AI's cloud API.
Let's move into Section 3, Zero American Chips, and unpack the GLM 5.2 specifications.
To really grasp how significant this is, we have to look under the hood of GLM 5.2, which is the beating heart powering this entire ZCode environment.
And the specs are just formidable. We're looking at a 744 billion parameter mixture of experts architecture. It boasts a massive, genuine 1 million token context window. But here is the kicker. This model was trained on 28.5 trillion tokens using exactly 0 American chips. It runs 100% on Huawei Ascend 910B silicon. They completely bypass the need for NVIDIA hardware. It is definitive proof that frontier AI models can be built entirely outside the US supply chain. And that fact brilliantly illustrates the immediate disruption this is causing. When you compare the performance and pricing, it's staggering. On the Frontier SW benchmark, which measures complex, multi-hour autonomous engineering projects, GLM-5.2 hits 81.3%. That is near parity with Anthropic's Claude Opus 4.8 at 82.3%, and it actually edges out GPT 5.5. But the price is where it gets crazy. It aggressively undercuts the top American models, charging a mere fraction for input and output tokens.
To put that into perspective, that pricing translates to a jaw-dropping 82% maximum cost reduction compared to Claude Opus 4.8. You are getting frontier-level autonomous coding capabilities for less than a fifth of the price. This doesn't just shake up the enterprise software market, it completely shatters the existing unit economics of AI development altogether.
So you're probably wondering, how is that price even possible? Well, Stability AI founder Emad Mustak estimated that the total training costs for GLM 5.2 were roughly $25 million. That highly efficient training cost makes it extraordinarily cheap to produce relative to Western frontier models. ZAI isn't just taking a loss to buy up market share. No, they have a massive fundamental structural advantage in how they build AI.
Section 4, the $10 billion market, and Z.AI's massive financial surge.
So what exactly happens when a geopolitical crisis meets a highly capable, ridiculously cheap new tool? Well, the financial fallout in what Gartner estimates as a $10 billion enterprise AI coding agent market is intense. $128 billion. That massive number was ZAI's market capitalization crossover on June 22nd. Investors absolutely flooded in, driving a 42% intraday surge following their surgically timed product launch. The market clearly sees the massive opportunity created by balkanized supply chains and sudden government model bans.
And Z.AI is capitalizing on that momentum through the balkanization of software pricing. When you line up the pricing tiers, ZCode subscriptions, which run from a $16.20 light plan up to a $144 max plan, are just systematically undercutting entrenched competitors. Compared to Cursor's $20 to $200 range, or Claude Code's tiers that can easily scale past $1,200, ZCode is offering a 19% savings at the entry level and up to a 28% savings at the high end.
But here lies ZAI's true challenge. Up until now, their revenue engine has relied heavily on safe, on-premises deployments for Chinese state-owned banks and energy conglomerates. Now, they have to turn a sky-high $128 billion valuation into a trusted, global business. They literally have to convince Western enterprise buyers to trust a tightly coupled Chinese stack, the model, the subscription, and the IDE, in an era of constantly escalating technology tensions.
Finally, Section 5, Surviving the Multi-Model Era and the Tekin Recommendations.
So, what does this all mean for you? The era of blind dependence on a single vendor is officially over. Full stop. Today's geopolitical climate demands this four-step survival playbook for enterprise CTOs. First, you need to build a multimodal architecture with dynamic routing and automatic fallbacks. Second, actively evaluate open-weight models for self-hosting. Third, aggressively assess your compliance and data retention risks. You need to know exactly what laws your AI tools are subject to. And fourth, calculate the real costs of these systems at scale, heavily factoring in the safety and viability of your fallback options.
And when we say you need a fallback, we mean an ultimate, locally hosted or VPC-hosted safety net is now completely mandatory. Luckily, there are some incredibly robust open-weight alternatives out there right now. Minimax M3 offers really strong performance with an open license. Z.AI's GLM-5.2, as we've just seen, has excellent benchmarks. Alibaba's Qwen 3.7 Max is an absolute powerhouse, and DeepSeek V4 Pro is highly cost-effective. You need at least one of these in your back pocket for sure.
We've seen exactly how sudden export controls created the very opening that allowed a completely non-US dependent AI ecosystem to flourish globally basically overnight. Which leaves us with this final truly provocative question for the future of the industry. Do sweeping government export controls actually improve national security, or do they just forcibly transfer the center of AI innovation to countries with fewer regulations? It's a complex, messy reality, and one every tech leader is going to have to navigate in this new, fragmented era of AI. Thanks so much for joining me on today's Explainer, and I'll catch you next time.